So I'm back on the pheno hunt. Now I said I wasn't gonna do as much pheno hunting, but as you may have heard in the last video,
I'm so dumb.
me and Trey, CLtv, trying to have some CLtv approved dank and some actual CLtv dank. So the pheno hunt that I'm doing now is become a little more extensive. Luckily I got other people helping me with it, but I'm still doing it. And it comes back down to that, I think, age-old question, at least that I always talk about, is the quality versus quantity. And that's where we're kind of trying to find that balance. So, as I'm popping these beans, which I'm just getting ready to start to, and I'm actually going to be running them in these new AC Infinity wick system pots. I'm really excited for those. We'll see how they do for my setup in particular, but I know with traveling in my future, it's definitely going to be something that I focus on a little bit more in terms of automation or ease of my grow without having a ton of extra equipment or electrical components. So again, stay tuned for that.
Spoiler alert, it's gonna be science awesome.
And also remember, you can use the discount code CLtv at checkout if you want to get any of the AC Infinity equipment, especially these new wick system pots. Really interested in that. So anyways, with that pheno hunt, now with that quality versus quantity thing, it boils down to when it's going into a commercial setting, obviously quantity does have to be a factor. That has to be something we have to take into consideration, but quality obviously is the biggest factor. That's my number one factor. I want something that's dank, that's gassy, that has that fuel, that represents Headbanger as close as Headbanger is, but at the same time grows a little better. That's the focus here. So right now how I'm gonna determine this in the pheno hunt is essentially my full run all the way to the end, but documenting the fine balance in between the two. I need to find the phenotype that packs some weight, but also packs that gas to it as well. Now what the fuck am I rambling on about? Well, essentially, with this new pheno hunt, I have to really decide what am I gonna keep. Now what I'm gonna keep at home is gonna be different than what I'm gonna keep in a commercial setting. So I'm really getting to the point now where I can't grow like I used to, which is weird when you think about that. So if you wanna scale your garden,
level me up.
you have to think about production as well as that quality. Now production falls in line with how long it's gonna take to grow. If it's a short vegger or a longer vegger, so to speak, does it take longer to stack and stretch when you get into the flower? But it's just crazy because for me, the longest time now, for the past at least 6-7 years, I've been focusing just on quality. Like I don't give a fuck if it's got stretchy nodes. I guess if it's real leafy, I don't like that. Or if it has to grow 13 weeks, 12, 13 weeks.
Get the fuck out.
It's got my whole approach in the garden really changing, and I kind of like it. Don't get me wrong, it's a little different, but at the same time, I think it's gonna be really nice to have a new approach to gardening because it keeps it exciting, keeps it really exciting. And that's one thing I think people struggle with is like staying motivated with the garden. After a few good harvests, it's like, why even keep going if you got a nice inventory, if you got a nice stock, if you got a good amount of flower on deck and you become weed rich. Shout out high again. Now that's definitely a good problem.
Duh.
But not everybody has that luxury. Some people end up having a shitty thing that comes up, something bad that comes up, and they're not able to actually grow as good as they once did or never even get the harvest that they're looking for, and it just really kills the motivation. So like in the video on CLtv, I talk about not quitting. You don't want to quit, you don't want to give up, and a lot of people do. They decide that this isn't for them, they'd rather get a caregiver, they go to a dispo, or they get something different. But I'm here to tell you, don't fucking stop. The motivation has to stay real. You got to be motivated in your garden. Now when it boils down to motivated for the work and doing all the extra stuff to it, you got to think about the output, the input versus the output, so to speak, the amount of work put in versus the reward. That's where you can see that it's obvious as can be. If you're growing decently, it's going to be a rewarding system. It's going to be very beneficial. But if it's a cumbersome, stressful situation for you, then maybe the juice isn't worth the squeeze, depending on your particular variables. Now for me, I smoke a lot of bud, so I'm gonna always continue to grow. It's no question, obviously, at all. But then there's others who struggle with the motivation to keep going, who maybe think that there's better options to just pay for it if they don't smoke a whole lot. Well,
don't be dumb.
Maybe, I guess, if that's you. I mean, if you're those type who just blows through like an eighth a month, I guess, yeah, that does make sense. But if you're the type that consumes, a few grams a day, then you're probably gonna want to continue to keep your garden going. Now, changing things up for me has been probably one of the most exhilarating or re-energizing experiences with growing. When I change up my process a little bit, or when I try a new thing or a new genetic, I do a pheno hunt, new equipment, like something maybe from the sponsor of this channel, AC Infinity. Whether you're using their entire grow kit or you're breaking it down and buying their ventilation or their new Evo series lights, AC Infinity is top of the line and builds equipment for the community pretty much by the community. If you're looking to get any high quality AC Infinity products, go to acinfinity.com and use discount code CLtv at checkout.
Like I was saying.
It just like revitalizes the energy to the point where I'm getting very excited and I'm like, man, I want to see how this does, what the impact is for my garden. And I think that's where a lot of people, they get stagnant with their grow because they don't change things up. Now, if you stay consistent, that's definitely important. Obviously, you want to get the best results you can. Being a content creator for years, I didn't stay too consistent because I'm trying to document stuff and share my garden with you guys on YouTube. So it's been like a lab. Like I use my whole space as a lab, so to speak. But then the production side, it kind of fell back in terms of yield. Now, I had cultivars that yielded decent, and I still actually have quite a bit of the flower for some of them, but I just didn't like the smoke, so I don't ever smoke it, you know? And I ended up getting rid of those, put the kibosh on them, they're gone. But then there's other ones that were really good smoke that just didn't necessarily yield great, that I've kept around. Headbanger is one of those. The only one that I think I really regret losing in the past would be Holy Grail Kush, but she sucked growing. Like, it was really good smoke, but got like 2 Z's, a plant. It was not that great a bud structure, but just very, very good smoke. And then fast forward to today, I've got this white truffles. As you may have seen recently, it's got that nice hue to it, but it doesn't yield shit. It's again like 2 ounces, maybe 3 if I'm lucky. And it's not the easiest to trim. It's, you know, I wouldn't say larfy, but just small buds, you know, small pieces. So that's where you get kind of struggling in the motivation to deal with it. I don't even want to trim it. I don't barely want to grow it. I just want to smoke it, you know? I just literally want to smoke it. So maybe pivoting, maybe changing things up, maybe not keeping this in the garden or changing up how I grow this would change my mentality. So if you get stagnant in your garden, just something as simple as changing your approach to the garden, let alone changing a cultivar or changing equipment or adding new things into your process or your approach, it could really keep that energy going forward so that way you actually give a shit. I mean, I started 15 years ago, like I said recently, and going from just growing in the backyard out in the country to fucking a nice tent setup to, you know, larger spaces to now potentially working in a commercial space. It just shows like the consistency and dedication. If you stay with it, you start here, it takes a long time. You know, the average business or the average venture takes like 10 years to be successful. But, you know, a lot of people quit before they get to that point. And if you quit, you're guaranteed to never win. There's never going to be a point where you hit that finish line that's going to be satisfactory. It's going to be fulfilling in any sense. So I guess my long-windedness of what I'm trying to say, and it's not a flex of where I'm at, but a lot of people are like, man, it must be nice, or it'd be awesome if I could do that. I wish I could do that. Stay consistent. Don't quit. Pivot if anything, but do not quit. And I'm telling you, because once you feel like you're ready to give up, right over that hump is usually where you start to get the rewards. And most things are peaks and valleys, so you never really have a consistent, good experience. And if you do, sometimes it becomes boring for people. Sometimes they become too content and they don't want to keep on hustling like they should. So, I mean, honestly, depending on who you are as a person, obviously not everyone's the same, but you may want to consider changing things up, whether in your garden, your life, fucking work, whatever it is, but to stay focused and to stay energized and to stay determined, sometimes you got to pivot. Sometimes you got to shake things up a bit, you know? And that's kind of a big reason why I've decided to dive into the commercial space in a sense, is because I wouldn't say things are becoming stagnant, but like, what's the next step? What's the next level? You know, looking like in jiu-jitsu, you've got belts you can get to, you get stripes you can get, and it's not the goal per se, but it feels nice to be able to have an accomplishment that is tangible, that you can feel or that you can see the result from. So that also is motivation as well. If you can see to the end of that tunnel, you can see to the finish line, and you know your path to get there, or at least you're trying on your path to get there. There's no blueprint, but you're trying.
That's all the motivation I need to actually do this.
With that being said, have a great day, even better tomorrow. Stay lifted, y'all.